In the heart of the lush and powerful kingdom of Dulo, there lived a princess unlike any other. Her name was Bantuya, daughter of King Ekul and Queen Bera. From the day she was born, the villagers whispered that she was different. As she grew, it became clear that Bantuya was not like the other girls. She was taller than most men, with broad shoulders, thick arms, and a deep, booming voice. Her strength was unmatched. She could lift baskets 2 men struggled to carry, and once pulled a trapped ox from a muddy river alone. To the elders, she was a blessing. To her parents, she was a miracle. But to the people of Dulo, she became a strange tale, a giant princess, too strong, too different, and too terrifying for marriage. By the time she turned 18, suitors came and left. Some ran after meeting her. Others never showed up at all. One even fainted when he saw her lift a wooden throne out of the way for her elderly father. "Why should I marry someone who fears me?" Bantuya would ask quietly. But behind her proud smile was a heart growing heavy with sadness. Each day she would sit alone in the royal gardens, watching the village children play, couples laugh, and her younger cousins prepare for weddings. Her heart ached for connection, not for riches, not for power, but for someone who would look at her without fear in their eyes. In the royal palace, King Ekyo grew worried. "Our daughter is brave, wise, and loyal," he said to his wife. "But her future remains uncertain. The people do not see her beauty, they only see her size." Queen Bera nodded, brushing a tear from her cheek. "A great love will come," she whispered. "That is what the stars said on the night she was born. A man of courage, not of height or title, will see her heart." But the villagers continued to whisper. They gave her names behind her back, the Thunder Woman, the Iron Bride, and even the Curse of Dulo. When Bantuya walked through the village square, children stared and men looked away. Still, she never showed anger. Her voice was kind, and her hands gentle. She helped carry water, visited the sick, and told stories to the orphans. Yet at night, she would cry into her pillow, wondering if anyone would ever truly love her, not for her strength, but for her spirit. One evening, as the sun set behind the mountains, painting the sky orange and gold, Bantuya stood alone under the old baobab tree at the edge of the palace grounds. The wind rustled her long dark braids, and the scent of hibiscus filled the air. She closed her eyes and whispered to the stars. "Is there someone out there for me? Someone not afraid. Someone who will see me, not just my body, but my soul." The tree swayed gently, and though no voice answered, a quiet peace settled in her chest. Little did she know, far beyond the eastern forest, a humble traveler named Konu was making his way toward the kingdom of Dulo. With no gold, no title, and no fear in his heart, he walked alone, but not aimlessly. Fate was guiding his steps. And the stars, they were watching. The morning sun peeked over the tall trees as the village of Dulo began to stir. Roosters crowed, children fetched water, and the blacksmith's hammer echoed through the air. Life in Dulo was simple but full of rhythm, until something new arrived that day. A young traveler named Konu stepped through the southern gate of the kingdom. He was not tall. His frame was slim, his clothes were worn, and his sandals were dusty from many miles. But there was something about him, something quiet yet strong. His eyes sparkled with curiosity, and a soft smile rested on his face as if he trusted the world even when it didn't trust him. He carried only a wooden walking stick and a small leather bag. The guards at the gate laughed. "Where are you going with no sword, stranger?" one of them joked. Konu replied gently, "A man doesn't need a sword when he walks with peace." The guard smirked. "Well, peace won't feed you in Dulo." But fate had its own plans. Later that afternoon, panic broke out near the palace grounds. One of the royal lions, Oba, the king's favorite, had escaped its cage. The great beast roared and thrashed near the market square, terrifying the people. Vendors dropped their goods and ran. Children screamed. Even the guards hesitated. Bantuya stood at a distance, watching. She had known Oba since she was a child. The lion wasn't angry, it was scared, confused, and injured. But no one else could see that. Suddenly, before anyone could act, Kanu stepped into the path of the beast. The crowd gasped. "Get back," someone shouted. "You'll be torn apart." But Kanu didn't flinch. He knelt slowly, placing his walking stick on the ground. Then, in a soft tone that surprised everyone, he began to hum. It was a tune only few knew, a melody from the old forest people used to calm animals in distress. Oba's growl softened. The lion took a slow step forward, sniffed the air, and sat. Kanu reached out his hand, whispering, "You're not angry. You're hurting, aren't you?" To the amazement of the crowd, the lion lowered its head. Kanu gently examined the beast's paw, finding a sharp thorn buried deep. With one smooth pull, he removed it. Oba let out a deep, relieved sigh and licked Kanu's hand. The villagers erupted in cheers. From the palace balcony, King Ekyo had watched the entire scene. He ordered his guards, "Bring that man to me now." Moments later, Kanu stood before the king and queen. Though he wore rags, he stood tall with calm respect. "You have done what even my strongest men could not," the king said. "Who are you?" "I am Kanu," he replied. "I come from the land beyond the rivers. I seek no riches, only a place to belong." Queen Bira looked at him closely. "You come the lion with no weapon. What else hides in your heart?" "Only kindness," Kanu said. Just then, Princess Bantuya entered the hall. She had seen it all too. Her eyes locked with Kanu's, and unlike every man before him, he did not flinch, stare, or lower his gaze. He smiled. Not at her strength. Not at her height. But at her soul. And for the first time in her life, Bantuya felt seen. The days that followed were like a soft wind after a heavy storm. For the first time in many years, the palace of Dulo was filled with laughter, light, pure, and real. Princess Bantuya, once quiet and distant, now smiled often. Her eyes sparkled as she walked through the gardens, and the servants whispered among themselves. "Something has changed. She looks happy." And it was true. Every morning, Bantuya and Kanu met in the royal gardens beneath the baobab tree. They sat on flat stones by the lotus pond, sharing stories. Bantuya told him of her childhood, her loneliness, the fear she saw in every man's eyes. Kanu listened with deep care, never judging, never interrupting. Kanu spoke of his long journeys through different lands, of wild rivers and singing birds, of helping strangers and sleeping under stars. But when he spoke, he never made himself sound great. He spoke like a friend, not a hero. And Bantuya loved that most of all. The villagers noticed the princess's joy. And so did Namu. Namu was a palace guard, strong in body but weak in heart. For years, he had watched Bantuya from afar, dreaming she might one day choose him. But he had never spoken to her, not even once. He feared her strength, yet craved her attention. And now, someone else had it. "Who is this ragged traveler?" Namu hissed one evening to the other guards. "He has no name, no gold, no bloodline. How can the princess laugh with him like that?" "Because she sees something we don't," one guard replied. Jealousy coiled in Namu's chest like a snake. That night, he began to plant seeds of doubt. He whispered to servants that Kanu might be an imposter. That maybe he had tricked the lion, or used magic. That perhaps he only wanted the throne. The rumor spread slowly, like smoke in the wind. By the end of the week, even the king's advisors began to raise their eyebrows. "My king," one counselor said quietly, "this stranger, he may have good manners, but who is he, truly? No family, no past. Are we certain he seeks no reward?" King Echo did not answer. He had seen truth in Kanu's eyes. But even he could not ignore the whispers forever. Meanwhile, Bantuya remained unaware. Her heart was blooming like spring flowers. She laughed more, slept better, and for the first time, believed love was possible. But one morning, as she entered the garden, she found Kanu sitting silently, a worried look on his face. "Why do you look troubled?" she asked gently. "I heard the voices," he said softly. "The people are starting to doubt me." Bantuya's smile faded. "You've done nothing wrong," she said, standing tall. "And I will not let their fear steal what we are building." That very evening, at the royal banquet, Bantuya rose from her seat and spoke clearly for all to hear. "Let it be known, Kanu is my friend. He is kind, honest, and has brought peace to my spirit. I will not hide that truth because others are afraid of it." The hall fell silent. Even King Echo was surprised. But somewhere deep inside, he was proud. Namu, standing near the entrance, clenched his fist. He had lost her heart. But he had not yet given up. The next morning, the royal court was restless. Princess Bantuya's public defense of Kanu had shaken the kingdom. Some saw it as bold. Others, as dangerous. But for many, it was simply unheard of. "No princess should speak like that about a common man," grumbled one elder. King Echo sat in his chamber, deep in thought. His daughter was growing into her own power, and though he admired her strength, he also feared for her heart. Later that day, the king called a private meeting with his council. "If this man is to remain close to my daughter," he said, "he must prove he is worthy, not just with words, but with action." And so, a royal challenge was announced. 3 tasks. 3 impossible tests that no man could fake. If Kanu succeeded, he would be honored. If he failed, he would be sent away. When Bantuya heard the news, she rushed to her father's court. "Why this test?" she demanded. "He has already shown kindness and courage." King Echo raised his hand. "Not to punish him, my daughter, but to protect you. Let the truth reveal itself." That evening, the king summoned Kanu to the throne room. "You must complete 3 tasks," he said. "Succeed, and you may remain. Fail, and you must leave Dulo." Kanu bowed his head calmly. "I accept." The court leaned forward. The entire village would soon be watching. The first task: tame the fireback beast, a wild, red-eyed creature living near the river Nomo. It had destroyed crops and scared farmers for years. The second: solve the riddle of the Whispering Stone, a puzzle only the ancient wise had ever answered. The third: bring back a single feather from the legendary sky hornbill, a bird said to live atop the misty cliffs of Mount Jamba. Even warriors trembled at the sound of these trials. The next morning, Kanu left the village alone, carrying only his wooden staff, a gourd of water, and a leather pouch. Villagers whispered as he walked by. "He won't survive the first trial. He's not even a warrior." But Princess Bantuya stood at the gate, eyes locked on him. "Return safe," she whispered. "I believe in you." Kanu gave her a small smile, then vanished into the forest. By nightfall, news had spread. Kanu had found the fireback beast near the river. But instead of fighting, he sat calmly before it, whispering and playing his reed flute. The beast did not attack. Instead, it lay beside him like a loyal dog. Kanu removed a thorn from its paw and led it peacefully back to the jungle. The people were stunned. 2 days later, Kanu returned with the Whispering Stone's answer. He had listened to the echoes in the cave, spoken gently to the winds, and solved the riddle that stumped the elders for decades. The final task was the most dangerous. He climbed Mount Jamba alone. No man had done it before. The path was steep, icy, and guarded by fierce winds. Many feared he had perished. But on the 5th day, As the sun rose, Konu appeared at the village gate, his face bruised, his clothes torn, but in his hand, a single glowing feather from the sky hornbill. The crowd gasped. He had done it. In the royal hall, King Ekyo stood slowly, walking down from his throne. He took Konu's hand in front of all and declared, "You have proven your heart, not with strength, but with truth. You may stay in Dulo, and in my daughter's life." The villagers clapped, some in joy, some in shock. But one man, Namu, stood in the shadows, his jealousy burning hotter than ever. While the village of Dulo celebrated Konu's triumph, not every heart joined in joy. Deep in the palace shadows, Namu watched with clenched fists and burning eyes. The man he once mocked had done the impossible. Worse still, he had won the heart of the princess Namu had secretly adored for years. "This should have been me," Namu muttered. "She should have chosen me." But he knew Bantuya never looked his way, and now, with the king's blessing on Konu, he felt truly invisible. His jealousy turned to rage. That night, while the village danced and sang under the moonlight, Namu slipped out of the palace and rode into the forest. He knew of a woman who lived beyond the river bend, a woman feared by all, the forest seer, an old witch known to work with dark forces. Many had warned against seeking her, but Namu's heart was no longer listening to reason. He reached her hut at midnight. The trees around her home were twisted and black. Owls watched silently from above. The forest seer, bent with age and covered in rattling bones, greeted him without surprise. "I knew you would come," she croaked. "Jealous hearts always find their way here." "I want him gone," Namu said. "I want the princess to forget him, forever." The seer grinned, revealing yellow teeth. "That can be arranged. But nothing comes without a cost. I'll pay anything." She dipped her fingers into a bowl of black oil, pulled out a sharp bone, and began to chant. The air grew heavy, and the trees outside groaned. When she finished, she handed him a small clay jar. "Place this in the soil beneath the baobab tree where they meet. At sunrise, the spell will take hold." "And what will it do?" Namu asked. "He will forget her," she whispered, "and she will feel his absence like a wound that never heals." By dawn, the clay jar lay buried under the tree's roots. The next morning, Bantuya waited by the pond, smiling brightly. But Konu never came. She waited again the next day. Still, no Konu. When she finally found him near the palace gates, her heart skipped in joy. "You didn't come," she said softly. Konu turned to her, and his face held nothing. No warmth. No spark. Just confusion. "Do I know you?" he asked. Bantuya froze. "It's me." "Bantuya." Konu shook his head. I'm sorry." The world fell quiet. Her heart cracked like dry earth under heavy feet. He turned and walked away. Days passed, and Konu grew more distant. He wandered the village, quiet and confused, haunted by dreams he couldn't understand. In them, he saw her face, but didn't know why. Bantuya cried in silence each night. She had waited her whole life to be seen, to be loved, and just when she had it, it slipped away like a shadow at sunset. The king called healers, the queen prayed to the ancestors. But nothing helped. No one could explain why Konu had suddenly forgotten her. But Bantuya could feel something was wrong, unnatural. And so, one night, she went alone to the baobab tree. There, she fell to her knees and pressed her hands into the soil. Her fingers touched something hard, a broken piece of clay. As she lifted it to the moonlight, she saw the strange markings on its side. A spell. Someone had cursed him. Her eyes filled with fire. Whoever had done this, had declared war on her heart. And she would not let it go unanswered. The broken piece of clay trembled in Bantuya's hands. Even without a healer's wisdom, she knew it was no ordinary object. The markings etched on its surface were dark, ancient, and cruel. The tree beneath which it was buried was their sacred place, her place with Kanu. The very ground had been poisoned. Tears rolled down her cheeks, not from weakness, but from the weight of betrayal. Someone had taken her happiness and torn it apart like dry bark. But she was no ordinary princess, and she would not sit still and suffer in silence. She rose to her feet, her large frame casting a long shadow under the moon. She marched to the palace, stormed into the king's private chamber, and dropped the broken clay at his feet. "Someone curse Kanu," she said boldly. King Ekul and Queen Bira stared at the broken piece, eyes wide with fear. "It's dark magic," the queen whispered. "From the forest spirits." Bantuya's voice did not shake. "I will not let this be the end. If there is a way to break it, I will find it." The elders were gathered the next morning. They studied the clay and confirmed the worst. The spell had come from the forest seer, a woman who had long been banished from the village. "No one has dared approach her in years," said the oldest elder. "Her magic is too dangerous." "I will go," Bantuya said. The room fell silent. "No, my daughter," King Ekyo said. "It's too dangerous." But Queen Bira looked at her daughter and placed a hand on her shoulder. "Let her go," she said softly. "This is not just about love. This is her battle now." And so, before the sun rose, Bantuya dressed in her warrior's robe and left the palace alone. Her only companion was her mother's old necklace, a gift said to protect those with pure hearts. With each step deeper into the forest, the air grew colder. Trees twisted, roots slithered underfoot, and strange whispers followed her. She finally reached a crooked hut wrapped in vines. A black crow watched her from the rooftop. The forest seer appeared before her, thin, hunched, and wearing a crown of bones. "I've been expecting you," the old woman hissed. "You seek to break what has been broken. Who cursed him?" Bantuya demanded. The seer cackled. "You already know. But breaking a curse is not about revenge. It's about sacrifice. I'm not afraid." "Then come." The seer led her deep into the forest, where a silver lake shimmered under a black sky. "This is Spirit Lake," she said. "It shows you your greatest fear. Only by facing it will the curse break." Bantuya stepped into the water. It was freezing cold, yet calm. The moment her foot touched the surface, the world shifted. She stood in a different place now, on a mirror world. The trees were silent, and a soft mist covered everything. In the distance, she saw Kanu, standing with his back to her. She ran to him, but every time she got close, he vanished. Then, from the shadows, villagers appeared, laughing and pointing. "She's too big. She's not meant to be loved. No man will ever stay." She covered her ears, but the voices grew louder. Suddenly, the reflection of herself appeared, taller, stronger, but with hollow eyes. "You are too much," it whispered. "Even love fears you." Bantuya fell to her knees. But then, she remembered. Kanu's smile when they first met. His calm voice. The way he listened. The way he saw her when no one else did. She stood up. "I am not too much," she said, her voice strong. "I am enough. I deserve love. And I will fight for it." The wind stopped. The reflections faded. A golden light burst from the lake, wrapping around her body. She awoke on the edge of Spirit Lake, the seer watching her quietly. "The curse is broken," the old woman said. "He will remember." Bantuya bowed. "Thank you." The seer nodded once. "Go, child. Love as fiercely as you fight." Back in Dulo, Kanu had not slept for days. He felt like a man lost in fog. Faces looked familiar, but his heart was empty. And yet, each night, he dreamed of a woman, tall, proud, with eyes like fire and a smile that melted mountains. He couldn't remember her name, but he knew she mattered. The morning after Bantuya's return, the village woke to the sound of drums. She had arrived, walking tall through the marketplace. Villagers stared, unsure of what to say. Konu stood at the palace gates. Their eyes met. Something shifted. His breath caught. His feet moved before his mind could think. He ran to her. Bantuya, he whispered. And like thunder rolling over dry land, the memories rushed back, every word, every smile, every moment. She ran into his arms, tears falling freely. I remembered you, he said. I don't know how, but I remembered you. It wasn't you, she said, holding him tightly. Someone tried to take you from me. But I got you back. The king and queen wept at the reunion. The villagers cheered. Even the sky seemed to celebrate, as rain clouds parted and golden sunlight bathed the kingdom. But in the palace dungeon, Namu sat in chains. When the truth came out, the king ordered his arrest. He had confessed everything after hearing Konu's memory had returned. The forest seer's warning had come true, his jealousy had destroyed his standing and his future. Bantuya chose to visit him. I should hate you, she said, standing before his cell. But I don't. I just pity you. Namu bowed his head in shame. I didn't believe anyone could love you. But I was wrong. And now I've lost everything. Bantuya turned to leave. Not everything. You still have time to change. Use it well. From that day on, Bantuya and Konu were inseparable. They walked the village hand in hand, no longer hiding, no longer afraid. The people who once whispered behind her back now sang her praises. She fought for love, they said. And love returned to her. But the tale was not over yet. For a royal wedding was coming. And the kingdom had never seen a love story like this one. The kingdom of Dulo had seen many celebrations, births of royal heirs, victories in battle, harvest festivals blessed by the rain gods, but none matched the buzz that now spread through every hut, hill, and riverbank. Princess Bantuya was to be married. And not to a prince from a distant land, nor to a warrior with gold-plated armor. She was marrying Konu, the traveler with no title but the strongest heart in the kingdom. Drums echoed across the valleys. Dancers rehearsed in the courtyards. Farmers prepared their best yams and goats for the feast. Even the birds seemed to chirp louder, as if they too were invited. But it wasn't just a wedding. It was the rewriting of an old belief that only small women could be soft, and only big men could be brave. That strength in a woman was something to be feared, not cherished. In the royal palace, Bantuya stood before a mirror carved from moonstone. Her mother, Queen Bira, gently placed a golden crown woven with hibiscus and sunflower petals atop her head. You look like a warrior, the queen whispered, smiling through tears. I feel like one too, Bantuya replied. But not the kind who fights with fist. The kind who fights with love. Her wedding robe was unlike any one before. It was deep green, lined with feathers from the sky hornbill, the same bird Konu had braved the cliffs to face. Around her neck, she wore her mother's protective necklace, the one that had carried her through Spirit Lake and back. Outside, Konu waited nervously in a robe dyed from forest bark and river clay. His walking stick, now polished and engraved with symbols of the journey, leaned against the tree they had once met beneath. In his hand, he held a small wooden ring he had carved himself. It's simple, he told the king earlier. But it holds everything I feel. The king, once doubtful, now regarded Konu with pride. You've earned more than gold ever could, son. As the sun reached its highest point, villagers and guests gathered in the great courtyard. Colorful fabrics stretched overhead. Musicians beat drums and flutes sang across the wind. The elders sat in a line, smiling, their eyes already shining with tears. Then, the horn blew. Bantuya stepped out. The crowd fell silent. She walked with purpose. Her shoulders were broad, her head high, and her stride graceful like a queen in a tale of old. But it was her face that stole every heart, eyes full of peace, lips curled in a soft smile, and a glow that could melt stone. When she reached Konu, he looked up at her, not with fear, not with surprise, but with deep, unwavering love. "You came," he whispered. "I never left," she replied. The village elder stepped forward, lifting a staff of light wood. "We gather," he said, "not to witness a common union, but to honor a love that overcame whispers, fear, and magic. A love that stood strong when the world shook beneath it." He turned to Konu. "Do you accept this woman, not in spite of her strength, but because of it?" "With every beat of my heart," Konu said. Then to Bantuya, "Do you accept this man, not for his name, but for the peace he gives your soul?" "I do," she said, her voice clear like a morning bell. The elder handed them a calabash filled with honeyed water. "Share this, and let sweetness flow between you always." They drank. The crowd cheered. And the drums exploded into life. The wedding had begun. Dancers circled them. Fire throwers lit the sky. Children tossed petals and played flutes. Guests from distant lands came bearing gifts, woven cloths, carved masks, rare herbs. But Bantuya and Konu wanted none of the riches. They asked only for stories and songs, for the village to sing of love that defied limits. Later that evening, as the stars twinkled above, the couple snuck away from the noise. They sat under their baobab tree, the same one that once held the curse, and now stood blessed. Konu took her hand. "I carved something else." From his pouch, he pulled out a wooden sculpture. It was of her, standing tall, arms outstretched, protecting a smaller figure beneath her, him. Bantuya's eyes filled with tears. "It's how I always saw you," he said. "Not as too big, but big enough to shelter a whole world." She embraced him, burying her face in his chest. "And you? You saw me when no one else did. Even when you forgot me, your soul remembered." The days that followed became the stuff of legend. Villagers said flowers bloomed where Bantuya walked. That the river flowed stronger when Konu bathed in it. That children who heard their story grew up to believe in gentle strength and brave kindness. Years later, a festival was created in their name, the Day of Courage and Heart. On that day, girls and boys dressed up as warriors of love. They wrote letters to their future selves. They told stories of people who defied shame and chose truth. And under the baobab tree, now grown even wider, couples would gather and say, "If Bantuya and Konu could find each other, maybe so can we." As for Namu, the god who once poisoned love with envy, he was given a second chance. The king did not exile him. Instead, he was sent to live among the hill tribes, to walk and learn the meaning of humility. Years later, he returned, a changed man. He never again sought glory, but he did teach the village boys what jealousy cost him. In the end, Bantuya became queen, not because of blood, but because of choice. Her father passed the crown to her with honor. "She has the strength of 10 men," he said. "And the heart of 100 mothers." Beside her, Konu ruled not with power, but with wisdom. Together, they led Dulo into an age of peace, growth, and unity. Their love, once doubted, became a flame that lit the path for generations. And whenever someone asked how such a story began, the answer was always the same. No man dared to marry the giant princess, until one brave soul stepped forward.